Peter and Amber started walking from the same place, but in opposite directions along a straight road. After walking for 3 hours, they were 8 kilometers apart. And Amber's average walking speed was 1 km per hour less than Peter's. Find the distance that Peter has covered. Okay, so we're going to start off with drawing the distance line first. All right, and from the first sentence, it says they started walking from the same place but in opposite directions. Okay, so what it means is that they are moving away from each other. So since they're moving away from each other from the same starting point, but walking further and further away from each other, we're just going to put a starting point somewhere at the center of the road. Okay, so I have Amber and Peter. We're just going to label that down. And we're going to draw the arrow movement for each of them. All right, so Amber will be walking to this side. Okay, it doesn't matter who you put on the left or right side. Okay, and for Peter, he's going to walk towards the other side. Okay, now Peter's arrow I draw longer because we know that Peter is walking at a faster pace. Okay, from this sentence. Now, this is what they have walked for the 3 hours. So after walking for 3 hours, okay, so during the same 3 hours, Amber has walked this much, and in the same 3 hours, Peter has walked this much. Okay, so you're giving them both 3 hours, just that during the 3 hours, each of them have walked different distances. Someone has walked more, the other person has walked lesser. Now, and after walking for 3 hours, they were 8 kilometers apart. So after the 3 hours, this is Amber's final position. This is Peter's final position. So this distance, this whole stretch will be our 8 kilometers apart. And this is during the 3 hours. All right. Now, so we have recorded the data in this manner. All right. It'll be easier for us to observe what to do next. So if we look at the 8 kilometers first, what we know from here is that to cover a total stretch of 8 kilometers, both of them needed 3 hours to cover this total stretch. Okay, they have worked together in 3 hours to cover a stretch of 8 kilometers. So we call that the total distance in 3 hours. So that's our first step that we can write down based on this information. Okay, total distance in 3 hours is 8 km. All right, and of course, next thing is to find your distance in 1 hour. So if you give them 1 hour, how many kilometers can they work together to cover? Right? So simply 8 divided by 3. Now, 8 divided by 3, you will get a long decimal in your calculator. Please do not round off. All right, because if you round off the answer, you will you are actually reducing the accuracy you're making the answer less accurate. Right? You're reducing the accuracy. So put it as a fraction first at this point. Improper fraction at this point is okay. Now, since I have the total distance in 1 hour, and if we look back at the information here, okay, 1 km per hour less than Peter. All right, so we have, if you realize this 1 km per hour less than Peter, and this one, we have the total distance in 1 hour, 8 kilometers. We also have the difference in distance in the same 1 hour. All right, so since I have total and the difference, I can now go on to draw a very simple comparison model. Okay, like what you learned in lower primary. So this model will be what we call a 1 hour model. We define it as in 1 hour, so must write this out. In 1 hour, who has covered more distance? Obviously, what we know is Peter, because Peter walked at a faster speed. So in the same 1 hour as Amber, he will be able to cover more. Okay, how much more in the 1 hour? So 1 km more than Amber in the same 1 hour. And together in 1 hour, we know that they can work together to cover 8 out of 3 kilometers. From there, as we can see, it's just taking away 1 kilometers, just remove the 1 km. And this 1 whole and 2/3 km will be for our 2 units here. So just divided by 2. Okay. So 5 out of 6 kilometers is for Amber. For Peter in 1 hour, it will just be 5, 6 plus the 1 km here. So this is the distance that Peter has walked in 1 hour. Okay, so in 1 hour, he can cover this much. Now, read the question carefully. The question is asking for the distance that Peter has covered. Okay, not the speed. So if the question is asking me for speed, find Peter's speed, all right? Then fair enough, I can just leave this as my answer, km per hour, my unit of measurement. But because this is asking for the distance that he has covered all together, all right? So the distance that he has covered means from this dotted line all the way to this red line here. Remember we said that this was the distance covered in 3 hours for Peter alone. So you have this, in this case, 1 hour, you can cover this much. In 3 hours, you have to times 3 to find the distance he has covered in 3 hours.